What's going on? Will Jones from Ellusionist.com here, and today we're learning the Twirl Change. So the Twirl Change, originally published under the name The Pivot Color Change by Noel Stanton in 1964, is, as the name suggests, a color change where you take one card, you give it a shake, and it changes into another one. So that's the effect, that's what it looks like. Let's get in and learn how to do it. So grab yourself a deck of cards. I'm using the Madison Hellions. And what you're going to do is thumb off the top card into the right hand and rotate it so that it's face up. In the action of doing this, you're also going to get a break under the top card. If you're unsure how to get a break, the easiest way I find of doing this is just pushing the top card forward slightly and then bringing it back, leaving either your ring or pinky finger underneath the card as you bring it back. You're then going to drop this card back on top of the deck and line the two up. So what you should have at this point is a break underneath two cards that are back to back. You're then going to bring your right thumb behind the deck and push forward, pushing both of these cards forward. Shift the right thumb to the corner where the index of the card is, and then pinch with your middle finger at the opposing indexed corner and lift the two cards off the deck. So you should be left with this, and your right hand will slightly obscure the front of the card, and that's absolutely fine. What you're then going to do is, under the action of moving the card back and forth, you're going to use the index finger to rotate this card around these 2 points here, showing the second card. So that's what it looks like in slow motion without any shake. This is what it looks like when you add in the shake. You end up with a change that looks a little bit like that. And for the sake of this demonstration, I am using two fairly contrasting cards. I've got a picture card and a number card. You can use any two cards to do this effect, but if you're going from something like an 8 to the 9 of clubs or something like that, then the effect isn't going to be quite as visible. But you'll work this out as you go along. So that's the basic mechanics of the move. Let's now move into some tips, subtleties, and a few caveats when it comes to doing this move. So tip number one for this is, when you get to this point here, what you want to do is slightly bow the cards. So pinch your middle finger and thumb together ever so slightly, not too much, and that's just to create a slight bow in the card that goes towards your palm. The reason for this is this bow will, one, make it easier for you to reach the side of the card with your index finger, but it will also make the rotation aspect of it a lot easier. You find that if the cards are perfectly straight, then it can be a little more fiddly to do, and if you've got a bow going the other way, then you've got no hope in hell, because then this happens and all you're going to do is just fold the cards in two. So there's tip number one. Tip number two comes with the actual shake itself. Now, a lot of people I see doing this, when they first start, I was guilty of doing this as well, is you over-exaggerate the shake. So instead of doing something that's nice and slow and smooth, you'll do something like this. And the problem with doing that is you're probably going to end up knocking out a small child, or in my case, smacking your hand against the wall, which you probably don't want to do. So when it comes to doing the shake itself, my tips are, one, keep the shoulder as still as possible. You don't want to be moving your upper arm. It doesn't need to happen. It draws too much attention to what you're doing. Secondly, the majority of the motion should be in the wrist. So you're going to rotate the wrist back and forth whilst you're moving your elbow ever so slightly, and that will create this kind of arc here. And if you move your arm back and forth a little bit as well, what that'll do is create a nice motion blur that will prevent your audience from, one, being able to see the actual move happen, but two, it will also stop them from being able to gain a frame of reference for the angle of the card, of how it starts and finishes. Now, the reason that that's important is because if I start here with the card horizontally onto the camera, and then I do the move, and I end here, the card is now vertically onto the camera, and you can see that there's been this drastic change here that in a lot of people will just start ringing alarm bells, and people will figure out immediately how you've done it. So as soon as you take the cards off the deck, you want to start moving them in this sort of fluid motion, fluid smooth motion, as you do the change, and then immediately drop the cards back onto the deck. You don't want to give your audience a frame of reference for how the cards start or finish. It'll make the move a lot more deceptive, and the smoothness as well will make everything look just a lot better and a lot more professional. So you may also be wondering, when is the best time to actually execute the move whilst your hand is moving? Now, the answer to that is there isn't really a correct or incorrect time to do it. It's all down to personal preference. It is all down to what suits you. So if you feel that it's best to turn the cards over right at the end, you can do it right there. If you feel that it's when it gets closest to you, you can do it there as well. Or if it's midway through the arc. So it's up to you how you want to do that. Experiment, have a play, and see what works best for you. Everybody's style is different, and everybody has something that feels right to them. For me, I switch it up a little bit, but it's all down to personal preference and what you actually want to do. So tip number 3 for this is definitely consider your angles. So if you've got people that are only in front of you, then you can get away with doing the move sort of up here. And you can do this move here and you can get away with it. But if you've got people stood behind you and you bring the card to here, then newsflash, everybody's going to be able to see exactly what it is you're doing, and it's not going to fly. So if you're performing surrounded, it's best to do this sort of lower down horizontally, so then only people underneath will be able to see what you're doing. And let's face it, if anybody's lying on the floor underneath you when you're performing magic, then they've probably got more problems than you have, so that's not something to really worry about. But that said, if you do have people that are only in front of you, or if you're performing, say, a parlor show or something, and you are a little bit further back, then the best way to do this is, the most visible way at least, especially for cameras as well, is if you're here, you've got the card right in front of you and you can do the change as visibly as possible. Another tip as well is for controlling the change of angle. If you are performing the change here, then you can actually flow this quite well, so everything almost looks as if no angles of the cards and no orientations of anything have changed, and it actually can hide the effect quite well. Is if you start here with the card straight on, and then you bring it up to here, the card is still essentially straight on, and then you do the move, and then you end with your hand or your arm extended so that the card is in the same orientation. Now, yes, your finger and thumb have moved from the indexed corners to the non-indexed corners, but I don't think anybody is going to notice that, especially if you bring it down and drop the card straight onto the deck. So that is another good way of doing it. So there are the tips, subtleties, and a couple of caveats. Let's get into a quick routine that incorporates the twirl change. So first of all, let's have a look at what it looks like. So we're going to take the Queen of Diamonds, we're going to give it a shake, and we're going to change it into the Joker. In this case, it's the Joker that allows you to sign your soul over to Daniel Madison. I will put this one in the maybe pile. But if you were paying attention to the previous parts of this video, then you may be thinking, well, the card that we had a second ago is just here, and it actually isn't. It's the Queen of Clubs. It's also not at the third position, that is the Six of Spades. And it's also not on the face, because that's the Nine of Spades, quite interestingly. But if we were to spread through the deck face up, we actually can't find that card anywhere. Just go through this nice and quickly. You can go through this as slowly as you like, because the card genuinely just is not there. But if you were to spread face down, the only card actually face up in the deck is the Queen of Diamonds. So let's learn how to get into this routine. It's pretty simple, pretty beginner. So let's learn how to do it. First of all, you're going to take a triple turnover. If you don't know what a triple turnover is, as the name suggests, you're going to take 3 cards and just flip them over just like that. In the action of doing this, you're also going to grab a break under the 4th card. And this is going to be the card that we're changing into. So in this case, it's the 7 of Hearts. So we're going from the 6 of Diamonds to the 7 of Hearts. We're then going to drop these 3 cards back onto the deck. As before, we're going to push forward, shift to the pip corner, and pick up by the thumb and the middle finger. And then we're going to do the change. We change from the 6 to the 7. We're now going to drop all these 4 cards back onto the deck. Pretty simple so far. So the next step, we need to find a way of reversing this card, the 6 of diamonds, the original selected card in the deck. So the way that we're going to do that is pretty simple. We're going to flip over the second card with the first, and the first card is going to go under the second, like that. So you end up with this reversed spread. We're then going to use these 2 cards to flip over the third. And we're going to grab that again there like that. So we've now got these 3 cards. Now the 4th card is the one that we want to flip over. So the way that we're going to do this is if we just pop this card up so that we've got a little break underneath, we're going to place these cards down on top of it. So what we have now is this. And all we're going to do with our fingers underneath here, holding a break, we can do this in a bit of an exaggerated view, we're just going to pull this card out and just drop it over the top, or underneath even of it, so that we end up with this. So when we close these up, we have face up, face down, and face up. So I'll do that again. We're going to take the 7 of hearts, flip over the 7 of clubs, grab it from underneath like that. We're going to do the same with the 3rd card, grab it underneath like that. And then with this one, we're going to drop this on the top and pull this card out until we feel it come out of the lip, and then drop it back in. We're then going to close all of these cards up, flip the 4 over as 3, and that leaves us with a face down card, the face up selection, and then the rest of the deck face down. So now we're going to spread through the cards. So what we're going to do is turn the deck face up, and from the back we're going to run 1, 2, 3, and then grab a finger break just there. And then we're going to spread through the cards, and you can do this one at a time because there really is nothing to find aside from what you've got underneath that break. And then as soon as you get to this last card, you're just going to bring this out, and this last card is obviously the 3. We've got the selection sandwiched in between the 2 face-up cards. And what you do at this point is up to you. You can either close the deck back up and execute any form of pass if that's your thing, or the easier way of doing this is if you've spread quite sloppily, then you can actually bring your thumb back a little bit so that you open up gaps in the cards here, and you can stuff these 3 cards just straight into the middle like that as you close them up. Or you can bring them together and cut. You can use whatever looks best and you feel is most deceptive and works for you. It's all personal preference. There's no particular right or wrong way of doing this. But from there, the effect is essentially done. All you need to do then is spread face down, and then you have the 1 card face up amongst the face down deck. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you get as much out of this move and the little routine that I taught as I have over the years. And if you like this video, you know what to do. If you want to be notified when our next video comes out, hit subscribe. We've got some other wonderful content curated for you just down here. And let us know in the comments how you did with this and what you want to see us do next. And I will catch you in the next video.